Welcome to Funny, They Don't Look Jewish, where Judaism appears in the panels. Our purpose is to find characters, stories, and issues of comics that explore explicitly Jewish content. I'm Henry Bernstein.
And I'm Brandon Bernstein.
No
No
relation.
relation.
Hey.
Hey, good to see you.
What if we said everything we said was exactly the same?
Yeah, we're just constantly going. I mean, we could keep it going as long as possible. I didn't know you were going to say that. Stop repeating after me, or like, stop
No,
calling
you stop.
me.
No, you stop.
Yeah. It'd be great. It's so good. What a lovely, nice setup you have for us for anyone
Thank
who's
you.
watching visually. I love that we've got our comics behind us now. It's such a cool addition to
We're
it.
on the other side of the room. We're out of Songs of Experience headquarters and now into Funny
Yeah.
They Don't Look Jewish headquarters.
Absolutely. Welcome to Funny They Don't Look Jewish headquarters. We're here post Hanukkah and getting in one, I don't know when it's going to be released, but recording one last episode in 2025.
Yes, probably released in 2026.
Probably. Yeah, but know that this is pure 2025
Right.
energy, listeners. I was just marveling as you were reading our intro. I was like, oh, I'm so glad that we said that we find characters, stories, and issues of comics, because usually, like most of our podcast has been finding characters. We're
Right.
constantly finding these characters. And I think this might be the first time that our focus is really more on like stories and issues and less so the characters.
It was funny also when I respond
Yeah.
to that, Brandon, but I was also thinking, I was just like running through the intro and I had in, that we started saying our purpose. That's like, this is our purpose. This is our raison
I
d'etre,
mean,
you know?
you say that, but like more and more lately, I've been like, I actually think that this podcast is like literally like one of the things that I am on this earth to do, is to be able to bring this to people to show the intersection of Judaism and comics in this way. I really think that
I
like
agree.
we do have this purpose, and
Yeah.
I love doing it. I've had a lot of friends recently saying, maybe not a lot, but I've had a friend recently saying like, oh, like what would you do if like nobody listened to your podcast? I was like, the exact same thing. I
Yes.
continue researching, making it like
Yeah.
I love all of you who listen, and also this is such a joy to do every time.
And I think also like, I think you and I decided a long time ago, I love when we get meta. We like,
Yeah, sure.
like
Yeah.
you and I decided a long time ago, like it's both important to have these things on the record, but also I think it's important. It's certainly important to me, and I believe it's important to you to be the one to put it on the record.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
like when someone says something is Jewish, like we're the ones that are saying that this thing is Jewish.
Yeah. It's the Bernstein stamp of approval.
Yeah.
Like instead of like a kosher symbol, it's just like one day if you want to make sure that your comic is really Jewish, get the funny they don't look Jewish stamp of approval on it.
It's a
Yeah.
good merch idea.
Absolutely.
Funny you don't look Jewish. Sure.
Actually, oh, you could create that. That would be really delightful.
I'm on it.
All right. Well, we're on that. I'm glad that we're in a light mood because we've got some heavy topics today. As we're about to dive in, we've had to do even more behind the scenes, right? We've often talked about the fact that mostly we deal with superhero comics, and today is kind of the exception to that. But I ended up discovering, I went down this rabbit hole and found this incredible treasure trove, I would say, of Jewish content in the realm of war comics. So, Henry, what's your experience with war comics?
Yeah, about zero.
Yeah.
Like I think just my my only experience with war comics is in the way that I know the history of comic books, and that after the war ended in the late 40s, 50s, and 60s, interest in DC Comics waned. Interest in DC superhero comics waned,
Right.
and interest in war comics, westerns, and romance comics went
Right.
up. And then, boom, the creation of Marvel and like sort of
Yeah.
got superheroes back in
The
the game.
60s brought him back. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So that's only my only experience. And then like with reading them, like honestly, other than knowing of Sergeant Rock in the DC
Yeah.
universe as a character and reading him in comics like Darwin Cook's New Frontier.
New Frontier. Yeah.
Things like that, places seeing him in the DCU, that was my only, I never picked up a war comic intentionally and read one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what about
Agreed.
you?
Yeah, very, very little. In fact, I would say the only real like war comics experience I have, which wasn't even really war comics, when in the 90s, when Marvel and DC did Amalgam, which for anyone listening who doesn't know, Amalgam was this like mixture of Marvel and DC where all, like Wolverine and Batman merged together to make Dark Claw, and it was basically Batman with claws, right? So I remember one of the comics I loved was Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, or maybe it was Sergeant Rock and his Howling Commandos, which Yes, but it was like a mixture of Nick Fury and Sergeant Rock
That's right. I
being
forgot
combined
about that.
together, and that I think was my like early introduction to Sergeant Rock, who's like a classic war comics character who I think like kind of bridges the gap between war comics and the DCU as it
Oh,
exists
for
now.
sure. But that's just like bringing me back.
Yeah,
I
it's
forgot that like in many ways that was like sort of the only one that like kind of made sense thematically.
sure as like,
Like
oh yeah, you definitely bring these
it
two
wasn't
characters
just smushing
together.
their like sort of vibe together. It was like
Yeah,
although Nick Fury, but I remember the Nick Fury the comic, not to go off on too much of a tangent,
yeah.
but like Nick Fury the comic to me felt more like a spy
Well,
comic.
he was, but you may remember that a lot of the people who were in S.H.I.E.L.D. were formerly his Howling Commandos from when he served
Oh,
in World War II.
got
So
it.
Nick Fury, I don't know if he started, I think he might have started as a war character
Hmm.
that then got brought updated as like,
Hmm.
well, now he's a little too old to be a soldier on the front lines. So
Hmm.
now he's like a suit and a spy and like sort of an elder James Bond vibe. Yeah.
Did you ever see the 90s Fox TV starring David Hasselhoff?
Yeah, we saw like images of it.
You never
Yeah.
saw the actual thing?
I
I remember
don't
watching it
remember at
live.
this point. Yeah.
It's
I
terrible.
think Viper was in it, I think,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Anyway,
All right, sorry.
we're to refocus this. So yes, we are doing war comics today. We are looking at some classic war comics, 3 DC, one Marvel. Yeah, I also similarly did not have much experience other than knowing it was a genre that was booming for a very long time. And we're going to be looking at some comics after I think like their sort of boom,
Mhm.
war comics that were still coming out in the time of superhero comics. And so we're going to be starting with, for those of you who can watch visually, this one right here in the middle. This is from DC. It's a comic called Our Fighting Forces. Henry, you want to tell us a little bit about the issue?
Yeah, this is Our Fighting Forces, number 150, September 1974. The name of the story is Mark Our Graves, written by Robert Kanigher, penciled and inked by John Severin, edited by Archie Goodwin, cover art by Joe Kubert.
Yeah, which I mean, you see that art and you love seeing some Joe Q art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had never known much about Robert Kanigher, but was looking into it, and he actually ends up writing two of our issues we're going to cover today. This is the first of two, and he is the son of Romanian Jewish immigrants, and so it is pretty clear, like, oh, he's got this Jewish connection that he brings in that we're going to see. He's
Do
a
you think the Liebers and the Kanigers knew each other in Romania?
who knows?
Do
Maybe
you think
one
they're for
member of
this?
the family. Yeah. Oh, that's funny to think about. I
Yeah,
mean,
like Larry and Stan.
okay, so Robert Kanigher, he's apparently most known for his war comics. So we were looking up and seeing that starting in 1952, he was actually the editor and writer of what was considered the Big Five war comics, at
Hmm.
least over at DC. Those were GI Combat, Our Army at War, Our Fighting Forces, All American Men at War, and Star Spangled War Stories.
I think that really illustrates the point that like in the 1950s, like they had five
Yeah,
like that's like in the 90s having five Batman titles,
right.
five, which they did, like they had four,
Right,
but
absolutely right. It's like these five different titles. They're like the
that's a
big five. And
lot.
also, those are the big five, which implies that there were other little ones, right? Just like there's like the major prophets and the minor prophets. Like one suggests the others. So there's like these like little war comics that weren't sung as well, but those were like five huge comics in the 50s.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, great call on that. Right. So our fighting forces started then, but we're reading an issue from 1974. So also, I mean, pretty good that it didn't get canceled in that 20 something years, even as the superhero revolution goes on.
That's a super long run.
It's super long. Now, Robert Kanigher is significant for a couple other reasons. One, he's also a co-creator of Sergeant Rock, as we were discussing, who we'll talk about a little bit later, but Sergeant Rock is one of those prominent DC characters. Joe Kubert was also a co-creator, and he was also a co-creator of The Losers. Now, the Losers we're going to be covering today in this issue. I didn't know much about them. I was like, oh, what is this title, The Losers? Let's get to them in a second. Last thing I'll say is he's also famous for taking over Wonder Woman after Wonder Woman's creator died. He was the next major creator who had a 22-year run on the title. So
That's
like,
incredible.
that's a really lengthy run on
Yeah.
Wonder Woman. Yeah.
Like William Moulton Marston, then Robert Kanigher, like, and
Yes.
then some other people, then George Perez.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like in my head, it's
Yeah,
question mark, George
the
Perez. Yeah, 100%. So he's got his bona fides for superheroes and for war stuff. These losers that we're reading about, which is so funny to call them that, they first appeared in 1969 in GI Combat number 138. So GI Combat was one of those big five titles.
Mhm.
And apparently the name is because it consists of four or five different guys who are each from a different branch of the military. Each one of them was in charge of their unit and had soldiers who died under their command. So that's why they're the losers, not because they're losing in battle, but because war has a heavy price and
They've literally lost
they've
people.
literally
Yeah.
lost people. Hence they are the losers. So we're diving into a mission of the losers. Also, one thing that's wild about these war comics, most of them are not one story. Most of them are like, right, there's like a main two stories in the issue. It's like every issue is two stories.
Wow.
So we're looking at one of those, Mark Our Graves. We're starting off on page 5 of our comic. We see the losers. They are moving through land. It's marked by hundreds of crosses, right? I don't know if you've seen that image. It's like very dark, showing all these dead soldiers, marking all these dead soldiers, and clearly the crosses sort of indicate, right? Like, okay, this is probably Christian soldiers that are dying. The losers see that there's a Nazi tank and there's a Jeep that is recklessly approaching it and attacking it. And the Nazi tank fires at the Jeep. Some people have to leap out of the Jeep, but one of them leaping out launches a rocket at the tank. And normally, listeners, you'd be like, this isn't Jewish content. Why are you bringing this up? It's context for, on page 6, we reveal that the guy, one of the people driving died, unfortunately, but one of the survivors reveals that their friend who died, Ben, knew who he was fighting, and they ask for wood and cord to mark his grave. And so, based on what we saw a couple pages ago, we might expect them to make a cross, but instead, Henry, what did they design?
They make a Star of David out of wood.
Yeah, they have this like basically like marking to indicate like here lies a Jewish person.
And Brandon, you might know this more from your pastoral work or whatever, but like in Soldiers' Grave, like in Arlington Cemetery, like Jewish soldiers, they have that's what they have,
I
right?
believe so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I believe the Star of David would be used rather than a cross to indicate and mark that they are a Jewish soldier. So like that is the symbol that would be chosen. I also love the fact that it's like it's war and they're taking seriously this sort of Jewish mitzvah of like you don't leave the body out, you bury the body
right,
immediately.
right, yeah.
And so they just like we're immediately burying this body and marking it. So you can see the losers kind of looking and there's almost this look of like awe on their faces. They're like, "Oh,
Hmm.
what is this? This is something different," as they
Hmm.
see the Star of David. Not only that, though, but then these two soldiers put talisim over their heads, and it really looks like they're wearing kippots.
Yeah.
And Henry, what do they start to say?
Yiskadal v'yiskada shemei rabo.
Amen.
Ashkenazi Hebrew.
Yeah, yeah. These soldiers are doing some Ashkenazi Hebrew. They are marking. I guess they've done a very quick funeral service, and it's like they're doing a quick graveside Kaddish.
And like they have and you said they put on taluses. Like where did they have like they're keeping their taluses in their bags?
I
Like
have no.
they
It's
travel with their kippot and
wild.
taluses. Like
Yeah, it does look that way though, right? Like
yeah.
I think like they're clearly in some sort of deserts. They're doing that, and this is also spoiler alert, friends. This is not the first time we're going to encounter Kaddish in these, and so I'm bringing you what I'm calling the Brandon Kaddish fun fact number one.
Kaddish Colonel.
So, Henry, are you ready for this?
Lay it on me.
So just to bring in a little fun fact, the earliest mention that connects the recitation of Kaddish to the dead comes from a 13th century text known as Sefer HaRokeach, specifically in Siman 53, in which the author of the Rokeach is telling us the order of the service and telling us, like, then you say this prayer, and then you say this prayer, and it gets to, and then you'll do Ein Kelohenu, and then you will do about the Ketoret, the incense, and then it says the Omed Hayatom, the Omer Kaddish, and then the orphan stands and recites or says Kaddish,
And is that
and
why
then
that
leaves.
particular Kaddish is called Kaddish Yatom?
So Kaddish Yatom is indeed because usually you recite it
For
for a
your
parent
for
when a
parent.
parent dies. So when your parent dies, you become Yatom, you become
Mm.
an orphan. And so yeah, it says that like this is again, it's not saying why they say it, but like as far as I know, this is one of the earliest indications of why we would recite Kaddish for the dead. It's letting us know that the mourner or the orphan gets up after Ein Kelohenu, says Kaddish, and then leaves from Beit Knesset, which also normally is Olenu first, but apparently no Olenu here, or I guess Ein Kelohenu would be afterwards.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, isn't Inkelihino Alenu then Adonalam or
Yes.
Kaddish?
Yeah. So clearly no Olenu yet,
Yeah.
or it's not written at least. Anyway, that's my Kaddish fun fact.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Kaddish Colonel.
Love that noise. On page 7, a Nazi plane suddenly attacks, and the losers and these two Jewish soldiers are all firing at the planes, and you see them taking it down with their grit and determination. And Captain Storm says to them, "We thought you were British commandos." And then I believe it's Joe, is one of these two Jewish guys. Henry, would you read for us what Joe says?
No, we're commandos with the Jewish Brigade, attached to the British Army. We're fighting for our homeland here, where Moses led the people of Israel out of Egypt to the Promised Land, and we're here to stay.
Yeah, that last one, it's like at the bottom, and you see the two shouting as they're firing their guns, "We're here to stay."
It's like they're sort of, it feels like they're all yelling it.
It does.
Even though the bubble doesn't show that.
Yeah,
like
it
gives,
looks
like
like everyone's
spirit.
shouting that, 100%. Henry, are you familiar at all with the Jewish Brigade?
Mhm.
So I wasn't until I read about this and I realized this is not a fictional part of this comic. This is actually based on a true story. The Jewish Brigade was a brigade of 5,000 all Jewish soldiers that were part of the British Army in Palestine during World War II. Apparently, Chaim Weitzman had been trying to establish an identifiably Jewish fighting formation for years, but the British only ever wanted squads that were equal parts Arab and Jewish.
Okay.
Apparently, a lot of times when they tried to form these, they would like try to find Arabs to volunteer, and the only ones who wanted to volunteer were people who like were not. This is what I was reading. It's like they would get people to volunteer who were like not really fit for battle, but the Jewish soldiers would be fit for battle because they were trying to make it only Jewish, but the British were like, no, we told you, equal numbers. It wasn't until July 3rd, 1944, that the British government consented to the formation of an explicitly Jewish brigade that would be headquartered in Egypt. And apparently, when that happened, there were newspapers in both Britain and America that commented, "This is great news. It's about 5 years too late." Right? Which is like, I found that fascinating to know that there were any voices in Britain or America being like, obviously there should be a Jewish brigade in World War II. Right? Like, it sort of like indicates there's like some awareness of like, yeah, there might be reasons for Jews to be fighting in this.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Wow.
But yes, so this comic is honoring the real life Jewish brigade.
That's really cool.
Yeah. On page 11, the Jewish Brigade have basically temporarily joined the losers to help them out with their mission. Their mission is to find a German supply dump. Somewhere hidden nearby, there is a German supply station, and they want to destroy it to be able to harm the German war efforts. And as they're searching and they're unable to find, they're going undercover, they're not able to find anything, they end up finding an abandoned synagogue that unfortunately has been desecrated by the Nazis. Henry, what's the image of that synagogue like?
So you can't tell it's a synagogue at all when they first enter. It's sort of in a cellar. It feels like very well. They don't go down steps, but it feels
It's like in an alleyway almost. Yeah.
And it's definitely giving abandoned. There's a corner that it appears that would be where the Torah goes, like it's sort of the ark without a curtain.
Yeah.
And there's a Jewish star over it, and then swastikas all over it.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if that's the ark where the Torah goes, or if that's meant to be the entrance to the synagogue.
Like where they came from in the first panel.
Like I think they walk into an alley and then they're
Like
outside the synagogue and they see it. Like I think that's them outside the synagogue. Like I think that star is like at the entryway marking it as a synagogue.
And there's steps up.
And those are steps up to go inside it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. But we can just pretend also that it's an arc where the Torah is.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's still a very striking image. It's sort of like there isn't much detail other than those two symbols, and so that's sort of the shock value of it, seeing the two symbols
Absolutely.
literally right next to each other in one of them.
Yeah. Like kind of like the Star of David in a way is like framed by these two swastikas.
Yeah.
And I love what our Jewish soldiers say, which is they say a swastika shouldn't keep it from being used. We're going inside to say a prayer for the Jews murdered in Europe. So it's like, oh wow, they're going in. I don't know if that means they're going to recite Kaddish again or if they're going to recite something else, but like, love that. The two Jews go inside and the two Jewish soldiers go inside, and then the losers overhear shots being fired. On page 12, they run in and they discover, surprise, surprise, the synagogue basement is the supply dump. Twist, right? But you couldn't see that coming unless you've read a comic or two in the past, right? You could see this also in sort of like a pulp movie, right? Like that sort of adventure story. Like, oh, this is the place we've been looking for. Yeah. And the losers are actually
we've been here all along.
Yeah. The losers are very respectfully saying, how can we blow up a holy place? And one of the Jewish soldiers basically gives them permission and says, has to be done, must be done, and encourages Captain Storm to then throw a grenade, destroying the supplies and part of the synagogue.
So is the injured person on the floor with the guns, he's a Jewish soldier.
Yeah.
And Captain Storm takes the grenade and he's the one that throws it.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, for those who are listening and maybe you're seeing the pages, maybe not.
Yeah.
One weird thing about these old comics is like art and captions do not always go along as fluidly as modern comics do. So you kind of have to spend some more time figuring out the storyline, what's going on. But it seems the two Jewish soldiers went inside to pray, stumbled upon the Nazis. The Nazis shot them and they're injured. The losers came down, found them injured, and then threw the grenade. And then they carry on page 13, they carry Dave and Joe, our two Jewish soldiers, out of the synagogue back to the Jeep in time to see the rest of the synagogue exploding and blowing up. And then you just see the sort of fiery wreckage. And the loser or the Jewish soldiers have one request to ask of the losers. What do they ask?
Bury us in the sands of our homeland, mark our graves so others who follow us will find us. Promise.
Then the losers promise, Iskadal, Iskadash, Shemera. And then he runs out of breath. And then what's the conclusion?
The final panel is the two marked graves with the Star of David.
Yeah, which we presume the losers made for them
Right.
because they weren't pre-made. So like they made it to honor these two soldiers.
Is the implication that those are the last two of the Jewish brigade? Like there's no one left? Like
I
they went doing
think this was
fighting?
just whatever the unit, because I mean it was like 5,000 soldiers. So
Oh,
I think
this particular
I think this was just like
unit.
three men in this unit
On this mission.
Exactly,
Got it.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, these two end up dying, and we get the stars. I do wish that they had recited Shema as they were dying.
Yeah,
It's weird to say Kaddish for yourself, but also I guess Robert Kanigher was like, well, I want it to be a reference to what I wrote earlier. For the non-Jewish audience, like I could see him wanting it to resonate. Like I understand it poetically. It bothers me a tiny bit, but like overall, just like a stunning story to stumble upon.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely beautiful. And it's right, like that one detail is like one of those things that you and I would prefer as like a nitpicky thing. Like if
Yeah.
you're gonna really do it
Right.
do that. But it's not like there was an absence of Jewish content.
Right,
And
right.
they didn't have that. Like I could imagine us looking at this and they see him making that plea, we promise, and then no dialogue and them just dying, and then you see, and we would have been like, oh, that was so nice
Yeah,
that they
absolutely,
did that.
absolutely.
But shouldn't they have been saying something? So here they at least they said something.
Right. They did say something that like indicated their Jewishness. And again, I do really think that it's something lovely that it's like, oh, it's the same prayer we heard them say earlier. So like I think there is something nice that the audience would read it and recognize that.
Oh,
and
yeah,
understand something about it.
Yeah, that is weird saying Kaddish for yourself. Is that a thing
Yeah,
as far as you're aware of?
I am not aware of that at all. No, it doesn't
You
make
say
sense.
it for the mourner says it. Like-
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Hey, well, let's not give away a future cottage fun fact about it.
Oh, sorry.
Still, just like an incredible comic to
Really
discover. Thank you, Robert Kanigher, for giving us that.
I do want to say one more thing just about, you mentioned the art. Sometimes it's harder to follow, which
Sure.
is definitely true. However, what I will say is that this has some stunning art that image of the two soldiers dying, like when they're dying,
Yeah.
is fantastic.
Oh, the art itself is like high quality. There's some beautiful coloring, some amazing shading in certain parts, like really great art. It's just like the synthesis of the writing and
Right.
the art is off,
A
right?
little
Like,
off, yeah.
like I think especially a lot of the 60s comics in the Marvel method at least, there were a lot of comics where you would see the narration would sometimes have to make up for the fact that the art seemed to not be showing what was going on
Right,
or
right,
like
right.
describing a lot more in between panels.
Right.
Modern comics, you can usually ignore the writing and just follow the art and get a sense of what's going on. And this really felt more like the art was good quality, but it was just kind of images unrelated to each other that if it wasn't for the narration, you'd have no idea what the connection is. And even
Right.
with the narration, it's a little hard to be like, oh, this happened in
Right.
between. Like
Right.
it's just a jerkier experience.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
not as smooth and clean. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what are we diving into
All
next?
right, next we've got War is Hell, number 10, September 1974, The Corridor, written by Tony Isabella and Chris Claremont.
Hey, love to
Pencil,
see him.
we love it. Penciled by Dick Ayers, inked by Frank Springer, colored by Petra Goldberg, lettered by David Hunt, edited by Roy Thomas.
Love it. But yeah, War is Hell is apparently a Marvel war series that the title's already telling you what you're going to be getting. Apparently, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were working on this together for a while, and we've come in now in the second issue of Chris Claremont taking over directly from Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, which is really cool to think about because, like, I know
That
they
late?
were around, but
Yeah.
like that late, yeah,
Like
absolutely.
if this is issue 10,
Hmm.
so that's 10 months essentially. So that
Yeah.
means for the first 9 months, Lee and Kirby reunited in the 70s. I
You know
wasn't
that it's
aware
a
of
little
that.
while. I mean, it's one thing that's possible, right? And I now I'm like, dang, I wish I had looked this up. Like, there was a tendency to do reprint comics, right? So it's entirely possible that War
Uh,
is Hell was a reprint anthology series reprinting older war comics that Lee and Kirby once did. And then they're like, hey, let's bring in new material now.
mhm,
And then Claremont starts. So maybe that's what was happening.
mhm.
I don't know. That's just speculation.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. Listeners, we're going to do our best. This is a bit of a confusing story.
Yeah.
So
We, we read it three
we
times
read it
together.
multiple times to be able to make sure. Basically, there is a guy named John Kowalski, and John Kowalski dies during the German invasion of Poland. For whatever reason, Death, the same one that Thanos will fall in love with in the Infinity Gauntlet and other storylines, right? Death doesn't like John Kowalski and decides to torture John and basically say that John, I guess, died like a coward's death and so therefore needs to die hundreds more times. And thus starts like what I'm calling a quantum leap style situation where someone dies. John Kowalski's spirit enters their dead body and reanimates it and lives the end of their life for a while until he then dies again. And every time John Kowalski dies, he then goes into another body and then another body and then another body. And when he does, he seems to like absorb their memories and know who they are. So he's both them and himself.
It reminds me of like stuff from like The Sandman, kind of.
Yeah, there is something a little Sandman about it, of like being a different like facet of the same character.
And it's not fun like Dead Man, who like goes into people's bodies to like,
Right, to just possess them and do
right,
things with them. Yeah, it's
right.
like very tragic. I
Yeah.
mean, again, yeah, like I said, it's like what if in Quantum Leap he was just being like existentially tortured and like like how is that not a living hell to have to die hundreds of
It
times?
should be called Living Hell, not
Yeah,
War is
not
Hell.
War Zone. That's a
Is
good
and
point.
no, is War is Hell this character series or
I mean, he seemed his first appearance was in Wars Hell number 9,
oh,
right? That was
okay.
like Chris Claremont created the characters. So
Okay.
I don't really know what
Okay.
happens to him next. Once again, listeners, this is a podcast that is not about Jewish characters. This is about Jewish issues and
Right. Good. That makes
stories.
sense.
So on page 5, we see the Nazis are talking to a guy named Dr. Simon Bach. And the narration tells us that this is husband of Ruth, father of Danielle, father of Jacob, father of Avram. Got a very Jewish sounding family to me. And it lets us know basically that John Kowalski possessed this man, is possessing this man because the actual Simon Bach died a week ago, right?
So this whole like they're letting us know that this whole thing that's happening, it's actually Kowalski
Right now
in
we're
him.
Kowalski inside of him,
Yeah.
and I guess it's meant to like land like, but the real Simon Bach has been dead for a week.
Yeah.
Like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And so on page 7, this family is wandering around. They're refugees trying to escape from Poland. And Ruth, Simon Bach's wife, asks why they can't just go back home. To which Simon says, we can't go back because we're Jews. And to be a Jew under Nazi rule is to commit suicide. So we must run. Which, like, wow, powerful statement there. Ruth continues to argue because she's like, you've never practiced Judaism since basically since when do you care about being Jewish? And Simon says, "Stop it, Ruth. I am a Jew. You are a Jew. Our children are Jews. Face it, we can't escape from what we are." How's this landing for you, Henry?
It's very powerful. I'm still confused, even after having done this 3 times. Like, I'm still confused. Is that John Kowalski inside of him experiencing it? Or
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so
This
it's
is
weird that he's like arguing and he's saying I am a Jew, but it's not Simon Bach. It's
right.
this other guy. It's like,
But it's like possessing a person. Did you ever see Being John
of
Malkovich?
course,
One of like my all-time favorite movie. Love that movie, right? So people go in this like little tunnel in an office and they wind up being inside and they are John Malkovich for 10 minutes. And we think of it as like they're possessing, but it's like you could be someone else. You could be John Malkovich. You see what he sees. You experience what he experienced. You feel being that. In that moment, any of those characters are both themselves
and
and they are John Malkovich. I think that's what's going on.
mm,
He is John Kowalski and he's Simon Bach, or in
okay.
this case, Simon Malkovich, I guess.
Right.
Which I think it's also setting up this really interesting dichotomy that Simon Bach, when he was alive, didn't care about his Judaism.
Mhm.
And now it's like, I mean, this is sort of a literalization of the trope that I'm sure you grew up hearing because I did all the time. Like, oh, you don't want to practice your Judaism? The Nazis didn't care if you practiced or not.
Totally heard
The
that. Yeah.
Nazis didn't care if this or that. If you were Jewish, you were dead to them.
Mhm.
That's kind of what this is
Right.
like, yeah, guess what, Simon? You died. Like the Nazis killed you, we're going to find out.
Right.
And your family doesn't know you died, but like you died. And now there's this new guy who's there. And he's like, I learned the lesson. We're Jews. We're dead meat. If we are like, we are sitting ducks here. We are going to die.
Wow.
Which also, when you think, who wrote this, right? Chris Claremont.
Right.
It feels in line to me with like Claremont's take on Judaism,
The
right?
stuff he's always working
Like
on.
he's
Yeah.
always working on
Yeah.
like Holocaust and Israel. Like it feels
Yeah.
in line with Claremont. So at this point, we get a flashback to Simon when Simon was alive. So now,
Okay,
no John
this-
Kowalski. This is pure Simon Bach.
I think I figured out why that it's so confusing here. It's because it's on the same page.
Yes, it's on the same page, and there's no
Let's say flash
panel framing that
10
indicates.
years ago,
Yes.
5 years, nothing.
Yeah, again, this is not the cleanest comics. Like it took a while to read and realize, oh, this must be what's going on. But we do this for you, listeners, and for ourselves. So we get a flashback that Simon was alive and he's arguing with a rabbi and explaining like he doesn't care. He's an atheist. He doesn't believe in anything. And the rabbi responds, "Because you are a fool, your youngest son should suffer for it. You would deny him his bar mitzvah." Which, like, wow, oh my gosh, it's basically like I could 100% picture that, like the congregant who's coming and being like, I don't care about my kid getting a bar mitzvah. I don't even believe in God. We don't
Right.
need to get him a bar mitzvah. And I love the rabbi being like, who cares what you believe? Like, let your child have it. Yeah, as a Rebbit's hymn. Has your wife ever had that experience with congregants?
Probably. I mean, I had a different situation when I was tutoring
Yeah,
a set of twins that like they were like, "What the heck is this?" And the
yeah,
dad was like, "Your grandparents are Holocaust survivors. We're doing this." And like
right.
there had been no Judaism until that point in their
Okay.
lives,
Oh, wow.
and it was
Yeah,
like the year before, basically. It was like
yeah.
we're
Suddenly
doing.
decided this is important.
Yeah,
We
he
need
had
to
like
have it.
until that moment. So
Yeah.
that so like it was interesting. It wasn't that. I mean, they were fine with it. They went along with it. They were great. They did a
Right.
great job. But yeah, I got them. I got them from 0 to 100 in 1 year.
Good for
Like,
you.
thanks.
Good for
It's
you.
one of my
Oh,
greatest
yeah.
accomplishments
Wow.
as a Torah as a like a Torah
Amazing.
tutor. Yeah.
All right. So at the moment that the rabbi and Simon Bach are arguing, there is an air raid. And the air raid starts to strike near the synagogue. And the rabbi calls out, Shimon, Avram, get the Torah quickly. Now, I don't know if he's talking to other people that are there or if he's talking, I think like he's talking to Simon.
Simon
So
Bach.
Shimon would be Simon.
Because
And
that's
Avram
what-
is his son. His
yeah.
son is the one who's not getting bar mitzvah, right? So he asks for them to get the Torah, and Simon then like grabs onto the rabbi to stop him from getting the Torah, to hold him back. To which the rabbi says, "Save your atheist flesh if you wish, but my duty is still to my God." Which like I don't know any rabbi who talks like that, but why?
He even says, "Unhand me."
Yeah. The rabbi is trying to run in. The rabbi also at this point has his tallis on, has a kippah on, right? Like rabbis are always wearing a tallis at every moment to identify them as rabbis in comics. And Avram is like, "I'll help you, rabbi," and he goes to run off. And then Simon like grabs his son to stop him, which I also understand that he wants to save his son.
Yeah.
And the son's like, "Let me go, let me go." And then in the next panel, it looks
What, is he
like
levitating?
Simon is just hurling his son. But I assume it must be from the impact of the bomb.
Okay.
Like it's the only thing that makes sense as the kid goes flying. This is the point where this bomb kills Simon. Simon does die. John Kowalski's body enters Simon. Death is
John
like
Kowalski's spirit.
John Kowalski's spirit, thank you. John Kowalski's spirit enters the body of Simon. And then he's like, I hate this. I don't want this. And Death is like, oh, should I just kill your youngest son? And then for some reason they call him Stephen, which
Oh yeah, that was really weird.
Stephen, I believe, is the name of his brother-in-law or his son-in-law. Stephen was
Right.
anyway. Clearly, the author just got confused because Avram is the kid.
Yeah, he yells out Stephen.
Yeah, but it
it's
should be
not
Avram.
Simon.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
established it's Avram.
On page 11, the future son-in-law Mitchell comments that the synagogue took a direct hit, and they're shocked that Simon is alive. And of course, we know he actually
He's not.
isn't, but he appears to be because
Yeah.
Kowalski is in his body. So then on page 12, we get this little conversation between Simon Bach slash John Kowalski and Jacob, one of the elder sons. Jacob thinks that they're abandoning their country of Poland by doing this, that they're fleeing. How could they? And Simon explains that there's a responsibility to family first before playing hero, which you could probably, it's not indicating as a Jewish thing, but we could bring in plenty of Jewish values that support that. And then we flash forward, we get back to the present day when they're trying to get across the border and they encounter these Nazi officers, and Simon sacrifices himself to kill the German commander so that Mitchell and the rest of the family can get away. And of course, this is when Simon dies again, John Kowalski dies again, and the family that
It's
is
very
left.
uplifting.
Jacob, the eldest son, now agrees that like keeping the family safe is the most important thing. And that's our story.
Yeah, I mean, again, one of these ones we've said it before, where like there's not much, but the stuff that there is like super Jewish. Like this
Yeah.
is more. I, I think sometimes when we're talking about the Jewish content, it's like ritual acts or something.
Yeah.
But here it's like actual identity stuff, Jewish
Absolutely.
identity, which I think is a
Absolutely.
little different than we're sort of used to with
I
other than like Moon Knight talking to his therapist.
or like I think Kitty Pryde had like an anti-Semitism speech that felt
Yes.
very identity based, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that we don't get this as much. I was actually just thinking like, oh, this would be a great comic to use to start a conversation with people around their Jewish identity and around exactly what I'd said earlier of like, yeah, like does it matter if you're religious or not? Like, what is your Jewish identity if it's not religious? What does it mean? Is it like I could see having the conversation with B'nai Mitzvah students to say,
Mhm.
like, oh, does it matter if you are an atheist or not? Like, does that impact your ability to get a bar mitzvah?
Mhm, mhm.
Right? Yeah. Like, there's actually like, yeah, interesting depth here. But it's sort of like hidden in the middle of this like weird little issue.
Right. If they didn't have so much time, spend so much time confusing us with the flashbacks, not flashbacks. I felt
Yeah.
like I kept getting, you remember, when we met to discuss this, I'm like, I
Yeah.
just don't get this, Brett.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like a very high concept, like almost like a Christopher Nolan movie now. I think I'm thinking of that because I'm like very much like hyped for the Odyssey and thinking
Oh,
of
yeah.
his movies, right? Like, oh yeah, it's a very strange concept going on, but I like that Claremont is tackling Jewish identity
Mhm.
and that sense also, right? Like this family's trying to get out.
Right.
And that's
Right.
also a factor, right? Of the like, can you escape? The recognition that like we can't escape our Judaism even if we don't believe in God, right? Like
Right.
there's something really powerful there.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, interesting.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
always fun to see stuff in Marvel House style too,
yeah,
like
yeah,
it feels
yeah.
very familiar. It's like
Yes.
being at home.
Yeah, it felt really familiar with style, even though it was a war comic. Like that was
Yeah.
kind of the throw of it was like, oh, this war, like this is not the genre I usually read, but it looks very similar to other Marvel books I read.
Or like I kept expecting like J. Jonah Jameson to walk by,
Sure, yeah, yeah,
Get me pictures of death.
yeah. Right. I want pictures of Kowalski. Yeah. I think Our next two are really great, though.
Yeah.
So, what do we have next, Henry?
Next, we have The Unknown Soldier, number 247, January 1981, Season in Hell, written by Bob Haney, penciled by Dick Ayers, inked by Gerry Talaoc, colored by Bob
Talaoc.
LeRose, lettered by Esphidy, and edited by Len Wein.
In this issue, Bob Haney, from what I was looking up, is Catholic, not Jewish,
Mhm.
but his editor, Len Wein, is Jewish. So
Yes.
maybe there was an influence, maybe not. Before we get into this issue, let's talk about that cover for a
Let's
quick
talk about
second.
that cover.
Yeah, what I think it's a really cool and striking cover, right? Like, we basically have this man in a trench coat and a hat riding a horse-drawn cart. And that cart is full of dead bodies. Underneath, we see this man wrapped in bandages over his face. This is the unknown soldier, putting his hand over a redheaded mouse girl. And there's soldiers at the gate where it says ghetto exit. And there's this word balloon where one of the soldiers says, "Go ahead, old man. Only the dead leave the Warsaw ghetto." Uh,
Whoa.
yeah.
Also drawn by Joe Kubert. Again,
Yes. Once again, Cupid coming in.
fantastic art.
Really cool art.
That's one where you see it in a drugstore. You're grabbing that. You're buying that
100%.
because I mean, actually, kind of all three of these,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, they have really striking covers, but especially right, Unknown Soldier, there's something really powerful about that one. You immediately know, oh, Warsaw Ghetto, like what's going on here? Like wild to see. And the cover alone, right? It just immediately makes me think of a famous Talmudic story, which can both be found in Gittin 56a to b and also in Avot de Rabbi Natan 4 or 5, which you may be familiar with the story of Rabbi Yochanan, who had to be smuggled out of Jerusalem while it was being sieged. And the way they did it is that he was smuggled out in a coffin.
mhm,
And they made that so that he could meet up secretly with Vespasian and ask for Yavna, which ended up being the way that Rabbinic Judaism survived
mhm.
the destruction of Jerusalem. But like, I can't see a Jewish picture and see like dead people pretend, right? I mean, it's also obviously calling on to like the number of Holocaust survivors
Mhm.
who described being like
Hiding in dead
hiding in
bodies.
a
Yeah,
pit of dead bodies.
yeah,
There was
or
an
digging a
execution of
grave.
bullets,
Yeah,
and they like just pretended to be hit and
yeah.
pretend to be dead. Like it's really calling on this traumatic history of like Jews surviving by pretending to be dead. On a lighter note, I
Yeah.
do wonder, do you think that since the unknown soldier is going into the Warsaw Ghetto, do you think he's going to run into Jerzy Ragunowitz, aka Ragman's father, who is the Ragman of of the Warsaw Ghetto?
Wow, what a callback to
Yeah.
episode 4. How funny that it looked Jewish.
Yeah. I was like, wow, I could see the how great that like unknown soldier might be like sneaking by while meanwhile Ragman's there.
When you said the name, I was like, I know that name.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I will say yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the unknown soldier, he kind of looks like the negative man from the Doom Patrol. I don't know if you're familiar
Yes,
with him.
great call.
Yeah, I
Great
guess the
call.
bandages,
It's
but
the bandages, but like that's such a great look. Yes,
is he's the master of disguise. That's
he's
his.
a master of
Yeah.
disguise, and I believe it's that like his brother was killed and he was injured in some way, and like no one like even though his brother's name was known, his name wasn't. So he's just like taken advantage of that and has become like the unknown soldier who's just like the soldier that like no one has any records of, no one
Right.
knows who he is. He could look like anyone, do anything, and he's just like the soldier that fulfills various missions.
It's a cool
It's a
concept.
really
And
cool concept.
and kind of is like becomes superhero Jace,
Yes,
like
it's like a
it's
war comic flirting with superheroism, right? Because it's
yeah.
like a spy that's so good that he could dress as anything, and he's like a perfect soldier. Yeah,
It's like,
it's like an
Batman's a master of disguise,
100%. Yeah, it's sort of like an adventure comic slash a war comic slash a superhero comic, which really cool
yeah.
concept. Yeah. So we come in on page 2. We have the unknown soldier disguised as a potato peddler coming into the Warsaw ghetto to give off his potatoes. And on page 3, he knocks at the door. A little girl answers, and this little girl's name is Tova,
Hmm.
which once again, like, wow, like not just a Jewish name, but like that is like a Yiddish name, right? Like
Yeah.
Tova.
Yeah.
Tova opens the door, and we find out she's the granddaughter of a Professor Ehrlich, who the unknown soldier is looking for. We see your grandfather. He's an old Jewish man with a large kippah on his head. And apparently, the unknown soldier is there because Allied High Command has asked him to get some work that this professor has on a gas diffusion for war efforts.
Mhm.
On page 4, Professor Ehrlich agrees that he'll give the work to the unknown soldier in exchange for just one thing: promise to take my granddaughter Tova out of here, get her to safety. Which, like, oh, what a beautiful thing for a grandfather to be doing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The unknown soldier responds and says, "You know it is forbidden to take anyone of Jewish blood out of the ghetto," which is like wild. The idea that like certain people, like people could go in, and if they weren't Jewish, they could come out, but no Jews were allowed. Right? They're forced inside the ghetto.
So he's in disguise as a potato peddler, not Jewish
Right.
potato
I think
peddler.
it's just like
Yeah,
someone coming in and being like, let me
right,
sell potatoes to these Jews and make
right,
some money.
right.
I think that's the idea. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
From to your knowledge, was that
Ehrlich hands over his formula, which is hidden in his Siddur, in his
yes.
prayer book, and we see like,
I love the idea of hiding something in a prayer book. Like
yeah, it's very cool.
it's like a spy thing. It's like, like the book hollowed out with like the formula in it, but it's
Yeah.
like a prayer book. Like you can't desecrate that.
Or it's
Like,
making me think of like, you can get some of those like Chabad or the Chabad or sort of like Kabbalistic prayer books that have like all these like kava notes written in the margins of the marginalia of like all the prayers. I'm
extra
imagining
stuff.
like that, like extra stuff, but instead of it being like Kabbalistic mystical secrets, it's like the secrets to this formula that he's making.
So
Uh,
they didn't like take out like the beginning of the Amidah and like the middle of
No, I think it's like written in the margins and
yeah.
things like that because he
Uh-huh.
even says, right, that certain pinpricks spell out the formula in a manner which any competent chemist can decipher. So I think even on like examination, it would look like a normal prayer book. There's just like these pinpricks in there,
Right.
which is very cool. It kind of also reminds me of like a Siddur, like the Koran Siddur has like multiple bookmarks, like ribbons to
Yes.
be able to mark multiple
Yes.
places. I kind of been thinking like that, like it's just like here's like a little prick here and a little mark here. And
Uh,
if you follow these pages, you'll find the thing. Yeah.
that's cool.
So then Ehrlich lets his granddaughter know, very sadly, that like he's not going with them. He's going to stay here to quote meet our God, which oof, he knows what's coming.
Yeah.
And on page 7, the unknown soldier and Tova encounter a group of Jewish resistance fighters who stop them, and the leader lets them know that tomorrow they are preparing for a massive uprising. In fact, one of them says, "You can't go out of here, right, until it begins tomorrow at noon. No one, not even one of God's angels, can leave the ghetto." Which, like, in my head, I'm like, is that a Sodom and Gomorrah reference? The idea of like the angels being trapped inside,
Mm.
right? Like while judgment is sort of being unleashed. But yeah, so basically, he's like, it's not just Jews can't leave the ghetto. No one gets out because they are preparing for the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising.
We're plopped right now into the prequel to the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, right? Like this is
That's what I think. Right.
like the Warsaw Ghetto. Yeah.
I don't know what else it could be. I feel
Right.
like that's what this comic is like the night he went in for this mission happens to be like the night before the uprising. Like that is exactly what it is, which is crazy timing that you would expect in a comic book, right? Like
Yeah.
so the resistance fighters, even though they're sympathetic to the unknown soldier's mission, say that they refuse to let them go because they need to strike against the oppressors of our people. On page 8, we see the unknown soldier tied up watching the resistance workers or the resistance fighters as they're filling the time for the next day. And it says he watches some pray to their God.
We- The implication is it's not his God.
I guess so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, maybe he's an
He ain't my
atheist too.
God.
Right.
Yeah.
But like we actually then get this image of like close to a minion of men gathered around a Torah scroll.
Mm.
Now,
That's
granted,
pretty.
at night, but maybe it's the Hashkama minion, maybe it's like an early sunrise
Right.
minion.
Right.
But
Right.
like we do see a minion reading from the Torah.
It is weird that it is at night. And like, I guess you needed that visual,
Yeah,
and maybe it actually, yeah, maybe it's Shakari, and they're in this dark cave only by candlelight because like they can't have any windows or anything.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, You need that image of them reading Torah so that it's very
It's
clear
very
they're
clear
a
what's going
quorum
on.
together doing a
Yes.
ritual thing.
Yeah, it absolutely is like the only way to communicate it, given that they're not in an actual synagogue.
I feel
They're
like in
like in a
other
sewer, it feels like. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. I feel like in there are times in comics where you
Yeah.
have seen like someone praying and they're like going with their hands
On their knees.
together on their
Yeah.
knees, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you had your chance. So at least
Right.
here it's
Yeah, it's not like fully accurate, but it's like this is what Jewish prayer could look like.
it's
Absolutely.
like saying Kaddish for yourself
Yeah,
in a
exactly.
comic.
You're like, you know what? Close enough. You get a cookie comic book. And then it lets us know that others are shedding hated badges of shame. And we see a man ripping a yellow star off his coat. What do you feel about, how do you feel about this caption?
That was cool. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen like a the imagery I've seen is Jews with the stars
yeah,
and for fear of what they would do if they did something like that. Like I've never
right.
seen either in something fictional or documentary or anything. Like even
Yeah,
the like at like a Holocaust museum, like preserving like the clothes that have them on. Like I've never seen someone rip them off. Like that was just really
yeah. It feels like transgressive almost, right? Like
yeah.
really,
It
yeah,
was powerful. It
yeah,
was really
absolutely.
powerful.
Right.
What did you think of that?
Yeah, that's a good
The
point. Yeah,
badge of shame.
I think it's like, I think I just struggle a little bit with it being termed a badge of shame because I think I understand what it's trying to say is like, why are they being forced to wear it? But because Jews do wear it, like, there's something about calling it a badge of shame where I'm like, but are you saying it's shameful to be Jewish? I know they're not, but I don't like that term badge of shame because it's a badge that indicates their Judaism. So there's something about that terminology that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, totally. And I think they're being very literal that they're saying it's the Nazis' badge of shame for the
Okay,
Jews.
sure.
Like
Yeah,
there's it's just sort of informational. Like it's so
right.
we know that he is wearing those Jewish stars that were imposed on them as
Right.
badges of shame.
Right. They were intended to be badges of shame, and he's like ripping it off to show like I'm gonna step
I
in.
don't think the
Yeah.
editorial is making a comment that like for Jews it was a badge of shame.
Yeah, no, I know that's not the intention,
Yeah.
but there's
The
just
the
something
term
about the
feels not
term
right.
feels weird in
Yeah.
that moment. Exactly. Like I don't know what it would be like, some shedding hated badges like forced upon them, right?
Mm.
Or like I don't know what it would be.
There's
But
definitely a better way, an easy way to say it that
yeah,
wouldn't have had the same effect.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But on page 9, as the unknown soldier's trying to get out, there's a poor Jew named Mordecai who encounters a soldier and offers to be able to sneak them out and guide them out of the ghetto. The soldier asks what Mordecai wants in return for betraying his people, which is an interesting take, right? Like they're getting ready for the uprising. Like, is that betraying his people by leading someone out?
Yeah, like it's not a betrayal against Jews to get a child out of the ghetto.
Yeah.
It might be a betrayal of the mission,
Right, right,
but
right.
like maybe the kids aren't on board with this mission.
Right. Yeah, it's weird,
It
but
was
uh
there's some heightened drama there that
yes.
is
Yeah, it's good for a comic, right? Yes.
yeah.
So Mordecai says that he wants 100 million zlotys. And he asks, is that too much for a poor Jew to ask? And unknown soldier responds,
One zloty is too much, but I agree.
right, he agrees to pay the amount. So I looked it up. I don't know what it was then, but apparently 100 million zlotys is like $27,385,000 in US money.
That's a lot of money,
It's a lot of money. It's
especially
a
back then.
crazy
Yeah.
amount of money. Yeah. So,
And then I love that Len Wein has he has a little editorial, 100 million zlotys, about $1 million. And then he write numismatic Len. Usually they have an alliteration when they're not
yeah, yeah, yeah,
there.
yeah.
So I guess I don't know.
Is it like numismatic? Like number? Like is that a
Yeah.
word for like numbering? Yeah, yeah. Anyway, Len's having a good time with that. So the soldier now, because it's the comic, he has to switch disguises. He now dresses up as Abraham, a rabbi. I like that we don't get a last name, it's just he's a rabbi named Abraham. That's fine. So this way nobody questions his prayer book full of secrets. Which I love.
Like, can I take a look at that?
Yeah. I see the It's important to me. On page 11, Eleazar and the other members of the uprising start chasing after them. And unfortunately, in these sewers that they're escaping through, the SS catches Abraham. saying, "You delayed too long, old rabbi." So they have Abraham slash the unknown soldier, they have Tova, and they have Mordecai. And as the soldiers are the Nazis, the SS are talking to them, the unknown soldier is worried that Mordecai, apparently because he wanted money, will rat out the uprising and will share the plans to save his own life. And so he like leans forward, calls him a betrayer, and slips a poison pill into Mordecai's mouth.
He
For
kills
he
Mordecai.
kills Mordecai with like yeah, with like
A cyanide
a
pill.
cyanide pill,
Yeah.
basically. It's
That's kind of messed
wild.
up.
It's a little
Well,
messed up because I read it. I was like, you have no idea what he was going to
like he didn't say,
do.
I'm gonna tell
Yeah,
them.
you would expect a drama of him being like, wait, wait, in exchange for my life, I'll tell you. And then it could happen.
Yeah.
Instead, he just like immediately was like, I can't trust this guy. Kill him. I guess I mean, that's the difference between a soldier and a superhero, right?
Right.
Yeah. Like this is a soldier's like the mission first, no matter what. Whew. So it's painful, but
It's,
yeah, yeah,
I'm sorry. It doesn't make sense because in the previous panel he karate chopped the other guy to knock him
yeah.
out. Like he could have knocked him out.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I guess it's because when he karate chopped the guy, he was the unknown soldier. Now he's being
Right.
watched by the SS and still has to pretend to be
Right.
a rabbi. So I
Right.
guess he's trying to make it seem
Right.
like, oh, what happened? On page 15, the soldier and Tova finally live up to the cover image and they hide in a cart of the dead to escape. But even though they get out, they are caught once again by the SS outside the ghetto walls. They made it out, but they're caught by the soldiers. Looks like they're not going to get out. And Abraham, in order to stall for time, asks if he can read a prayer for the dead for himself and for all these others. I didn't even realize till right now, Henry, that twice now we
Twice
have the idea, can I say Kaddish for
for myself.
myself? Wild. Well, he just says in reads a prayer.
Right.
And then we get this incredible narration that says, now, in this place of horror, a man who hardly even knows the words mumbles the Kaddish, the sacred Jewish prayer for the dead.
V'yishkadal, v'yishkadash.
All right, but technically not two,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So there we go. We get Kaddish once again. I like that he's saying it for everyone else. And this brings us, of course, to Kaddish fun fact number two.
Scottish Colonel.
Yeah. So we were bringing it up. You say Kaddish for your parents generally, but why is it that when we're saying Kaddish, why do we say it for 11 months, right? Somebody dies, you usually say it 11 months for your parents or 11 months for your sibling. You don't do it for a full year. Why is that? Well, in Eduyot 210, Rabbi Akiva gives us a teaching that there are five judgments that last 12 months. There's the judgment of Dor HaMabul, or the generation of the flood, the judgment of Job, the judgment of the Egyptians, the judgment of Gog and Magog in the future to come, which, by the way, every time I hear Gog and Magog, even though I know they're biblical, I just think of Kingdom Come
Yeah,
in
of
the DC
course.
comics.
Always.
Always. Anyway, the final judgment that takes 12 months is the judgment of the wicked in Gehenna. Listeners, for any of you who don't know, Gehenna is basically Jewish hell, which we call it. Like it's a little bit of a flimsy term there, but it's this place where all souls go to be judged and to be punished. And the idea is that everyone goes to Gehenna, no matter what, but the wicked stay there for 12 months to be judged. So, in the Shulchan Aruch, in a gloss by the Ramah of Yoreh Deah 376.4, we get the idea that we get this comment that lets us know Ein omrim Kaddish utafila rak Yud Aleph Chodeshim, that we only say Kaddish 11 months, not a full 12, Kadesh Shelo Ya'asu Avihem Ve'imam Risha'im, in order that it not seem that people are suggesting that their father or mother is one of the wicked. Because the judgment of the wicked takes 12 months, God forbid you say Kaddish 12 months, because the whole idea there is that part of saying Kaddish is to help the soul through the process of judgment in Gehenna. And who would possibly suggest that their father or mother was so wicked as to deserve a full 12 months in Gehenna? Therefore, you only recite Kaddish for 11 months, because, again, Chas v'shalom, God forbid.
This
Which,
is so weird. It's like this is one of those things where it's like But Rabbi, I thought Jews don't believe in hell. They don't, except this other thing. Like they
Yeah,
kind of do.
I
I mean, there is a Jewish concept of hell. Like you can, read many books about it. Like Rabbi Dov
yeah.
Weiss has a book about Jewish concept of hell. Like it does exist, but also it's like we just don't believe in it the way that like
The
the
Christians do.
Catholics do. They're like, yeah,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah, you
What's
are going to
funny,
hell if you do that. If you
right?
don't do this.
No, the Jews believe that everyone goes to hell, no matter what, and how good or bad you are determines how long you stay there. But what's funny is this past week I went to a rabbi learning event, and Professor David Shivitz was there teaching some material that I absolutely loved, where he was showing that like the rabbis read there's all these different terms for earth, and so they decided that that actually means that there's seven different earths, right? They're like Aretz is different than Tevel, is different than Adamah. It's sort of like these layers, like a nesting doll, where it's like one world inside the other, inside the other, inside the other. And so it suggests that like not only are there seven earths, but there's also seven heavens. And not only are there seven heavens, but that means there are seven hells. So while we're learning this, I was like, I couldn't help myself. I was like, yeah, you thought Jews didn't believe in hell? We believe in seven hells. So take that. Um,
That's great.
yeah, but wild. So anyway,
Also, one more thing, this little
yeah,
image in the left corner of A Abraham the rabbi
yeah.
is his payas braided?
It does. He does look like he's got braided pants. Like he almost looks a little bit more like an indigenous, like
Yeah,
Native American person
right,
than a
like a
rabbi. Yeah, it's
chief or
strange
something.
art.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But it's amazing. Like I mean, also we didn't talk about it, but like the panel where he's reciting Kaddish, and you see him standing in shadow with
Mhm.
Tova so small, like you can just see how isolated they are, and the SS are laughing at him and like
Yeah.
laughing at him for calling on his God to see if they get like it's really like you can just feel the like darkness of that panel.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, well, I was wondering like why would the SS allow this? You
I think
know?
they're laughing. They're just
They
like they
just
find it humorous.
mm,
Like, oh, precious Jew boy wants to say his prayer as if it can make a difference.
mhm,
Ha ha ha.
yeah.
So I think they're just laughing at him. And then, of course, on page 16, Abraham fakes a heart attack. An SS officer comes close. He steals a gun and shoots the
I love it.
soldiers.
It's so
I
good.
love it so much.
Some Indiana Jones right there.
Yeah,
That's
we're
so
like,
good. Of
yes, Indiana Jones, or did you watch Community?
course. Yeah.
Right? It's like a very Pierce move of
Yeah.
like pretending to have the heart attack, right? Like I love, yeah, it's such a good move. Fakes it, gets the gun, shoots the soldiers, and then as more soldiers start to come up on page 17, the uprising starts behind the soldiers. And Elias, that leader of this uprising, shouts, "Now, children of Israel, fight for your freedom!" And the unknown soldier grabs Tova and starts to book it as Elias and presumably Ragman fight in the uprising. And then we see the soldier finally arriving at Allied High Command, turning in the Siddur, turning in the prayer book, and the general comments about the precious secrets. And the unknown soldier says, "You'll never know how precious, General, unless you had seen a people fighting extinction with nothing but guts and faith." What a powerful line there. And then, of course, there's an end caption that lets us know that the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising was a failure.
This is such a a good issue. I
Yeah.
mean, this was I think this was the best one so far. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, by far. Like such like interesting content, right? In a
Yeah.
way, it's like more Warsaw Ghetto than anything else.
Right.
But, we have the prayer book. We have the rabbi. I like the fact that he pretends to be a rabbi. I like yeah, it's just I like the Kaddish line. Like it's really powerful.
Good stuff.
Really powerful issue. We have one more to conclude with.
One more. Oh my gosh.
And I know you just said you think that one was the best. I think this next one is my favorite
I said
because
so
so far,
far.
fair, 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 fair. Yeah, because like
Yeah, this one is
it's
the best.
it's so good.
Spoiler alert,
It's
this is
so
cool.
good.
Yeah.
All right, what issue do we have waiting for us?
Okay, we've got Sergeant Rock, number 413, December 1986. I Owe You One, written by Robert Kanigher, penciled by Joe Kubert, inked and lettered by Andy Kubert, colored by Tatiana Wood, lettered by David Hunt, edited by Murray Boltinoff.
Yeah. So, by the way, Robert Kanigher. we said was like one of the biggest editors of DC in 1952, and now he's still writing comics in 1986. So like, there's
That's
a
awesome.
good career.
Yeah.
And also Sergeant Rock, like it's a war comic that made it to issue 413. Like that is a long-lasting
Yes.
series. Good for Sergeant Rock at this point.
Wonder how many issues it ran. It probably got over 500. I mean, I remember it in the still around in the
Yeah, I remember
80s and
seeing it
90s and
around.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we know this is a banger because before we even dive in, like this
This
cover,
this cover, yeah, maybe this one's even more powerful. Yeah.
just to describe it for anyone who's maybe not seeing, there is what looks like not quite a battle. There's just like soldiers' bodies littered across the floor, like all these different soldiers on the ground. And in front of it, there are these two large, like white, I assume it's like marble almost sort of statues. There's
Yeah.
a giant cross on the left and a giant Magen David, a giant Star of David on the right. And then in front of each of those, casting shadows back on them, as you said, there is this man with the collar and a cross necklace, clearly a priest, but wearing army fatigues over it and holding a book with a cross on it.
Probably a Holy Bible.
Probably a Bible. Yeah,
His sitter.
it's exactly. And then in front of the Star of David, there's a man also in army fatigues, but wearing a kippah, wearing a tallis, and holding a prayer book with the Star of David on it. And they're like mirroring each other, basically.
This cover rules. Like,
It's incredible. If you please, if you never look at visuals, like look at the visual of this, look up this cover. It's stunning.
if Andy Kubert ever does like C2E2 or something, or like a con that you're going to, you should
Oh, I
definitely
should
get him to
definitely
sign
ask
it.
him to sign this one, 100%. So let's actually dive in now. Page one. Sergeant Rock is narrating to us and letting us know that two new soldiers have joined his squad. One, Lieutenant Philip Sinclair, we don't care about so much, but the other is Private Harry Cohen. Love it. Right from the name, we can tell. And the lieutenant asks Harry about the beanie on his head. And what does Private Harry Cohen say?
A yarmulke. Orthodox Jews always wear it, sir.
And then he gets into trouble for not having a helmet on over that. Let's hold on to that idea that he says Orthodox Jews always wears it. On page four, the lieutenant then assigns a chaplain, Father Kelly, to stick to Private Cohen. So indeed, there are chaplains. I remember even when I was in rabbinical school, there was the military would sometimes come by and be like, "Have you considered a career being a military chaplain?" And like, it's you have to be of certain physical fitness to be able to do missions, not like to be able to like keep up with the soldiers in certain ways. But like I remember they were always saying like the military would pay your rabbinical school debt. So it was always like, should I do that? I'm glad I didn't, but like there
Yeah.
are rabbis who go. So this is not a rabbi, but a priest who's a military chaplain is with them and is going to be traveling with them on their missions. On page six, Father Kelly is getting to know Private Harry Cohen. He asks Private Cohen, "What's your Christian name?" Which actually, do you want to just read out
Yeah,
this
let's
whole
read it.
exchange?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, so I'll be the priest, and you can be
Okay.
Private Harry Cohen.
Okay.
Mind if I call you by your Christian name?
Cohens don't have Christian names, Father. Remember, my given name's Harry.
Sorry, Harry. Slip of the tongue. What did you do back in civilian life?
I was a rabbinical student.
Oh, we're in the same business, Harry. I graduated from Notre Dame.
Great football team, Father. I studied at the Jewish Theological Seminary before I joined up.
What made you exchange the Talmud for a rifle?
Too many of my relatives wound up in Nazi ovens.
If this was the only Jewish content in this issue, Dayenu Best of the Year.
For sure. Like if we're ranking like Jewish content of 2025, here's your Spotify Wrapped for 2025 Jewish content.
Yeah.
The character went to JTS.
This character went to the Jewish Theological Seminary, aka JTS, where like this is the flagship conservative seminary. Obviously, there's Ziegler on the West Coast now also, but at this time, JTS, like that was it for conservative Judaism. That's why I think it's weird that he says Orthodox Jews wear it, because I'm like, he went to JTS. That's not the case.
Right.
But like
every medical student at JTS is
yeah,
wearing kippot also.
100%. But also like, yeah, makes complete. I would not at all be surprised if there weren't rabbinical students who decided to enlist and fight in the war, right? Like, it's wild that we have someone who like paused his rabbinical schooling to go serve in the war. And the fact that the priest gets to say something like, right, what made you exchange the Talmud for a rifle?
Yeah, that's a
Wow.
great line. I mean, I wonder if Robert Kanigher lived on the Upper West Side or something, and around
Yeah.
121st in Amsterdam or
Sure,
something, and like
yeah.
they were just
Would
like
walk
J,
south and
what,
see, yeah.
yeah, walk past JTS, and I
Yeah.
don't know,
Maybe. Yeah.
because like to pull that specific,
Yeah, that
he could have
is
just said I went to rabbinical school, could have said uh, you are J. I mean, he could have said
right. But to
anything.
have
Why
the
you?
yes,
Yeah,
right. Incredible to have that. Also, like I just love the easy camaraderie between the priest and
yeah,
Harry, right? Like you're just like, oh, this is good interfaith dialogue exchange.
yes,
The way they're
yes,
like joking with each other, like Notre Dame, oh, great football team. Like
yeah,
that you could tell that, like, oh, these guys get along. Like you could see a version where Harry's really bitter at that guy, especially like, I don't have a Christian name. And
right.
instead it's like they're just like good-natured kibitzing with each
Right,
other.
Harry doesn't bust his balls for saying that.
Right.
Yeah,
He's being respectful and
yeah,
direct,
yeah.
right? The way you would expect someone who's a soldier. Yeah, incredible. God, and oh, it just reminds me a little bit like when he says, "What's your Christian name?" as a force of habit. I don't remember if I've told this story before, but when I did chaplaincy,
Hmm.
I did not military but hospital
Hmm.
chaplaincy for one summer. A lot of rabbinical students do, and so a lot of the patients there were not necessarily Jewish, so they were used to chaplains being priests. So one time I was like walking the floor, I'd walk the floor, I'd knock on the door, I'd be like, "Oh, excuse me, like I'm a chaplain intern. Would you like to talk?" And there's this woman whose door I knocked on, and it's like uh, she was using the bathroom, but like in the middle, like she kind of like had this thing with her, and I was just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And she's like, "No, no, no, it's okay, Father. Come on in, come on in." And
Father.
I was just like, "Okay, like I'm so sorry I did that." Also, like I'm not a priest. And then she's like, "Oh, that's okay." And she's like, "Here, come in, just give me a moment. I'll wash up and I'll be fine." I was like, "All right." And I like walk in, and she's like, "Thank you so much, Father." And I was like, "Again, I'm not a priest. I'm a rabbinical student.
Oh
Please
my
don't."
God.
But she like wouldn't. She called me Father the entire
Because they,
conversation. She like it was the only. It was just habit for her. So it was always, "Thank you, Father."
oh, wow.
For me, Father. Yeah. So I like was thinking of that. I was like, yeah, the priest is just like he's in automatic mode sometimes.
Right.
What's your Christian name? Yeah.
Wow. That's a great story, Brandon. I told you
Thank
that.
you. Yeah, a lot of fun there. On page 7, the German tanks attack, and it's wild. Like you actually see there's a gunfire that hits the helmet off of Harry's head.
Right. It like
Like
exposes his
it
keeper because
explodes. Yeah.
the bullet hit the helmet off.
You're
Yeah.
right, which obviously amazing callback to earlier when it's like you should be wearing your helmet, right? And
Good
you're
thing he
like,
was.
good thing he was, but also there's something powerful about like to keep us still on,
Yeah, the keeper's
right?
protecting him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then Harry throws a grenade at the tank, and on page 8 to 9 we see the battle's over, and Father Kelly checks on the soldiers who died because not all survived, and he checks each dead soldier's dog tags for their religion, and he sees one and recites Catholic rites for one of them.
Mhm.
And then on page 9, Father Kelly checks some dog tags, sees what it says, and Father Kelly
Mhm.
says,
Yiskadal v'yiskadash shemei rabo. Be'olma divro cherusa v'yamlich malchusa be'echon livyom mechon uvchaye dechol beis Yisroel bagola livizman koriv v'imru omen.
oh, I love the Ashkenazi.
Yeah.
He's trying this. And then Private Harry Cohen watching, like his eyes are downcast. He responds, Yeheshme Rabo Mivorach Leolam Lomeo Mayo. We have the opening of Kaddish, and like it's the freaking Christian
Right.
pastor, chaplain, who recites it.
What do you think about that? Do you like that?
I love it.
Yeah.
I like, I get what you're saying, but it's like,
It's very powerful.
it's
It's very
so
moving.
powerful to see it. You know, I'll tell another story about when I was a chaplain intern, because why not? My supervisor was a man named Rabbi Nathan Goldberg, so Orthodox rabbi.
Mm.
And there was a patient who was dying. Like we knew that she was not going to survive much longer than a couple months. Um, and she had a partner and she wanted to marry him. And so we got to attend this wedding of like a dying woman and her what became her husband. The patient was Muslim, and Rabbi Goldberg officiated the wedding. And I
Uh-huh.
was really shocked by that because I was like, wait a minute, like you're an Orthodox rabbi, what are you doing? And he actually said, he's like, oh, like neither of them are Jewish. So like it's easy for me to officiate. Like the
Mhm.
halacha only dictates what I do with Jewish weddings.
Mhm.
Like Jewish weddings I have to be strict on.
Mhm.
I could do this. So there's something about the like, yeah, you're working in a chaplaincy system. you recognize that other people will have different religions. It feels so respectful to like the fact that he checks and you see he's like, oh, this one's Jewish. I'm not going
Right.
to say my prayer.
Right.
I'm going to
He
say
knew what to do
he
because he's
knew
been a
what to do
chaplain
because he's
for a
been a
while.
chaplain. He
Yeah.
knew what to do for a
Yeah.
Jewish soldier.
That's
It
cool.
feels so respectful and so incredible to me. And I love that like Harry Cohen then responds. He's like, "You're a switch
Switch
hitter,
hitter.
father."
Yeah.
Like I love that. But wow.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Right. So it's the prayer of absolution for Christian soldiers, cottage for the Jewish GI, and of course Father Kelly then says they're one to the same God,
Mm.
Harry. Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah. Yeah.
Enough.
There,
At
look,
least one of the gods.
yeah, look, there's like there is a certain element in interfaith relations, I feel, where there's a lot of people who are like, look, it's this different approaches to the same God.
Right.
I'd rather have that approach than like
Totally.
some of the other
Oh,
alternatives. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, we get that incredible moment, and on page 15, Father Kelly himself is shot in battle, and Harry Cohen thinks that he's dead. And so Harry Cohen, thinking he's dead, starts to say, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," which of course is Psalm 23.
Right,
And
which is
we
also Jewish.
it's also Jewish, but presumably if it was a Jewish soldier, he might say it in
Yeah.
Hebrew,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This right, very famous psalm. I'm sure most people know it. But then Father Kelly awakens. He's not dead, he's alive, and he's like, I'm okay thanks to the prayers of a future rabbi, and he claims that he owes Harry one.
Mhm.
And that is the end of this issue,
And
the story.
you know that like from that moment, Harry goes back to rabbinical school, becomes a rabbi, like to honor
Father Kelly.
Father Kelly,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
like go like in my mind, like maybe it goes on. They both make it back and become,
God, I hope
meet
so,
in New
right?
York for on a
Yeah,
park
have a cup of
bench.
coffee
Yeah.
and get to talk about faith and life and
Yeah.
all that. Yeah, like these two become like brothers in the
Yeah.
war, basically. Like,
Good stuff.
what a wild comic that I never expected. Like, again, we mostly do superhero comics.
Hmm.
The fact that like I'm amazed by all of these war comics and the content, but this Sergeant Rock one especially, I'm like, this is already a contender for like best Jewish content comic I've ever found. Like it's
For sure.
immediately in the top
From
five, I think,
from
right?
cover to last page. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
it just has everything. Like, what an incredible comic. I want to give out a few honorable mentions, just really quick. These are superhero comics that revolve around World War II, but they're not really, they don't have enough substantive Jewish content. So in the 1990s, in the late 90s, Chris Claremont wrote a miniseries called X-Men True Friends. In November 1999, we had the third issue of it by Chris Claremont and Rick Leonardi, in which Kitty Pryde, our beloved Shadowcat, has traveled back in time to, I believe, 1930s Germany. So Hitler's in power, but World War II has not yet started. And Kitty is thinking about a way to save her family from the Holocaust and decides that she'll have a mission to go and kill Hitler and all the Nazi high command.
It's like Kitty Pryde starring in Number of the Stars, except she also has the
Yeah,
information.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What's also wild is Kitty Pryde went back in time, and who does she encounter back in time?
Magneto.
Wolverine.
Oh, okay.
And she's like working with Wolverine, and it's kind of like, you don't know this, but like, we're gonna be pals one day, right? Which is wild.
That's kind of like the flip side of Days of Future
Yes,
Past.
very much so, yeah. Then in September 2005, in Wolverine Volume 3, number 32, we have an issue by Mark Miller and I was Care
I
Andrews,
always said
Carey,
care.
yeah,
Yeah.
Kaare
Yeah.
Andrews, about Wolverine as a prisoner in the Sobibor camp.
That's that's messed up.
Nuts, wild. The Nazis basically, like, because of his healing factor, just keep beating him up every day and shooting him, and he won't die. And he's like torturing them. Wolverine is like getting weird revenge on them because he won't die. There's no Jewish content. It just happens to be Sobibor. And the final thing I want to reference is in August 2009, as a part of Marvel Max, which this was a time when Marvel was publishing adult comics under the banner Marvel Max. They're unrated, no comics
It was
code.
like Punisher,
Punisher Max.
Daredevil, maybe.
No,
No.
Daredevil was Marvel
Oh,
Knights.
Knights. Yeah.
Punisher was under Marvel Max for a while. But yeah, it was sort of like
The
fully
Steve Dillon.
adult,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And this was by a comic
Badass.
called Dominic Fortune, number 1 through 4, by Howard Chaykin. Yes, the Howard Chaykin we covered in our Independent Jury episode. But Dominic Fortune is this like soldier of intrigue, spy of intrigue, kind of like James Bond,
Mhm.
who is Jewish. And throughout the comic, there are people saying, "Oh, you're Jewish," and there are Nazis being like, "Oh, that Jewish scum." But I didn't find any other Jewish content other than like he is Jewish, he's fighting Nazis. Nazis don't like him because he's Jewish. not enough, especially compared to what we saw. But I wanted to give some honorable mentions of the idea of like Jews fighting Nazis. And that is our content. Henry, what are your overall thoughts of this episode or everything we've covered today?
I'm pretty overwhelmed, like with just I'm pleased,
Yeah,
and I think, at a certain point we were getting pretty worn down by all the Holocaust stuff and all the Nazi
yeah,
stuff, and then we had to ask the question, is covering Nazis and the Holocaust explicitly Jewish?
yeah,
But I think these weirdly not even straddle the line, but highlight why those things are Jewish
yeah.
in very creative ways, in both in character, in both identity, in ritual observance. It was
Well, and
original.
when we discover that there's like two comics from the 70s, right? We had like 1973, 1974, 1981, 1986. Those were our comics. In the 70s and 80s, we get these comics that are like diving into World War II, but they're bringing the Jewish content.
Mm.
Three of these four comics featured people reciting the Mourner Scottish, right?
Right,
We
right.
had mentions of a bar mitzvah. We had JTS mentions, right? When you see that as the standard, that's Jewish content in a comic set in Nazi wartime.
Mhm.
Just setting a comic and having Jews suffering and
Right,
like not show like
right.
that's
Not
where's the Judaism, where's the
right.
Jewishness of it? Or as we said, right, it doesn't have to be a ritual, like a Jewish identity and struggling with like, if we saw one of those where people are talking, being like, I don't know why the Nazis are doing this to us, but they'll never let a Jew out. No matter what you do, you're right. Like engaging with the identity would be something. But I think these comics just highlight for me why so many others are like, this isn't Jewish content. This is just setting something in World War II and the Holocaust.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of those other moments maybe are like sort of, just, oh, haha, there's it's both really meaningful, but also it's like, oh, there's Colossal Boy at Shabbat dinner, like
Yeah.
one little tiny panel, and it like feels really good. It's like a
Yeah.
good hit, for a
Yeah.
moment, but really like this is like really deep Jewish content because they're talking about
Yes.
like Jewish identity.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
yeah, overall, I mean, just fantastic. I was really blown away. I mean, I would say I really enjoyed my first four war comics that I've ever
100%.
read.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
expecting that.
Yeah. There's really great stuff in this. Really fun to do it. And listeners, we hope you like this change of pace. I love that we keep finding more and more Jewish
Yeah,
content always. And I love that I keep getting to make these with you, Henry. And until next time, though, I'm Brandon Bernstein.
I'm Henry Bernstein.
No
No relation.
relation.
Thanks for listening. You can follow us at Jewish Comics Pod on Facebook, or you can email us at jewishcomicspodcast@gmail.com. Please don't forget to give us a rating and can hit the subscribe button if you haven't already.